everyone, delonewolf here, and welcome to another EVE Online video. Now in this video I'm not going to show you any real gameplay or anything like that, but I'm going to try and answer a question that pops up from time to time, and that is, how do you make ISK in EVE Online, or what's the best way to make ISK? Now obviously in EVE Online there is no best in anything, you know, just like there is no best chip. There is also no best way to make ISK, because you just never know how much a certain activity is going to pay out. You know, even mining, you can be lucky with faction rat spawning in and then getting a good module. In fact, I found an 80 million ISK module once just by mining in a 0.6 belt. Same with exploration, you know, you can make really good money and then another night you can make no money. Trading, that's even riskier. Scamming, that's, you know, even more risk, but the payoff of that can be huge, of course. You know, you can like either scam someone out with some plex or corp theft, stuff like that. There's almost an unlimited amount of ways to make ISK in EVE Online, but you can't really say that any of them is the best. So in order to give you guys some perspective, I'm going to tell you how I made most of my ISK, and I thought this was a good idea to do that now that I've once again broken 10 billion ISK right there. You can see I have 10.4 billion. I also still have 8 plex in Dodixie ready to sell on the big upswing that I'm expecting for the winter expansion. But let's start with the start. You know, how did I earn my ISK in the game? So first I did a trial of EVE Online, and after that I knew that mining was the preferred activity for me at that point. The reason for that was that it's decently safe and it's very constant. So my first goal was right away to get into, well, it's called Rifter here, but it's actually a Hulk, the Hulk miner, which back in the day when I started playing EVE Online was the best mining ship you could have, even solo, because there was no such thing as an ore hold back then. So that was my first goal, you know, reach the Hulk Tech 2 strip miners and Tech 2 crystals so that I could mine basically as optimally as possible. And that was actually one of the funnest parts in EVE Online. I was skilling up for that chip and for those modules, and at the same time, you know, mining a little bit in a retriever to try and earn enough money. I think it was 200 million back in the day that I had to pay for a Hulk, and just playing the game with a clear goal, you know, reach that Hulk was a lot of fun. And so of course after, I don't know, maybe a few months or so, I finally managed to get my Hulk. Only to lose it in like the first week to a can flipper. So I thought, hey, something started to flash red, and I put my 4 drones, I think it was at the time, on him, and then he quickly destroyed me. Now luckily enough at that time, together with my brother, we had enough ISK for me to buy a second one. I think I had to pay him back 130 million or something like that. But yeah, mining was definitely my first way to make ISK in EVE Online, just because of how constant it was. That's one big advantage, you know, just find yourself a good system without too much competition, make a couple of bookmarks in every belt and you're good to go. That's all you really need to start mining. Another big advantage is that you can turn minerals and ores into ISK very quickly, so you'll rarely be scammed out of any ISK by ridiculous buy orders when you're mining and selling minerals. So all you really have to do is just put it on the market locally or go to the closest trade hub, and there you could even fill out buy orders with your minerals. You know, the margins there are extremely thin. So yeah, I would say I started out with mining because it's extremely constant. You know, you can just, every single hour you spend in EVE, you're actually making ISK, and it's really easy to turn what you produce there into liquid ISK, so you can invest it in other stuff. That was my first thing. After that, when I reached the Hulk, I mostly still did a lot of mining, But then I started to skill up for a Dominix with sentry drone so that I could do level 4 missions together with my brother. I think that did up our efficiency a little bit. If you have 2 people that are capable of doing level 4 missions, you basically have 2 chances for every every level 4 agent to get one of those really great missions that'll yield you a lot of ISK. And so basically we could first check out, is there anything good to do on the missions front? Yep, alright, quickly do 1 or 2 missions, make 10, 20 million ISK. And after that, oh, are the agents dry? Well, no problem, I'll just jump in my Hulk and make some more ISK. And that's basically how I made my first billion as well. Just doing opportunistically level 4 missions together with someone else, my brother, and mining the rest of it. Now, after that, we did start to look into some passive income. And back in the day, one thing that you could definitely do was, let me quickly see if I can find those guys here, the research agents. Strange, normally should be somewhere. Agents, research agents, there you go. So all you really have to do is train some skills. Go to those research agents and tell them to start their research. They would produce research points, which you could then turn into data cores, and then you could just sell that to the market. Basically all you had to do is go and pick that up once every month or every 2 months, and there was a lot of ISK back then. In fact, I have 3 level 4 research agents, and they're still going, but I do need to still go and pick up some of the data cores. But the price of the data cores by now has diminished quite a lot, because that's been tied with faction warfare as well. But yeah, that was basically our first passive income, and back then, a few years ago, that was a really good way to supplement your income. In fact, people made alts just to get to level 4 research agents, and so that these could fund their accounts basically just on this passive income. That was really awesome, but that's been nerfed significantly. Although it is still possible, you know, I definitely, you can still make some ISK out of that, just not as much. After that, you know, we were still, I was mostly mining and missioning. My brother was also doing some exploration on the side, but I really didn't enjoy the probe scanning back then, you know, with the individual probe movements you had to do. That took a lot of time, so I still stuck with mining mostly and some missions. And that's when PI came out, so that's definitely one of our next sources of ISK. Right here, PI. We went straight to 4 or 5 planets and to a decent command center once that came out, because obviously it is decently passive income. The way I do it is once every 24 hours I activate my extractors, and then just over 4 planets I think I have now, let me quickly check, you know, over 5 planets. I'm making a lot of stuff that is related to POS fuels, so that's pretty decent in price, and this is also a decent passive income. I couldn't put you an exact number on that, but maybe just to show you guys some of what I've made so far. So I've been able to produce 12,000 Gallente fuel blocks. That's 172 million ISK worth, although those prices are pretty low. And then over here you can also add all of this extra material, putting me at almost 1 billion ISK worth in PI stuff. So that's pretty much 2 plex that I have right here. I couldn't tell you how long it took me to make that. It's a decent amount, sure, but it hardly takes any effort if all you have to do is log in once a day, activate the extractors, and then maybe once every 2-3 weeks pick up this stuff from your planets. That's really all you have to do. So that's really good, I think, for semi-passive income. And I think that this was actually before the changes to the research agents, or very close to that. So back then, you know, this was a really good way to make ISK. So yeah, at this point, you know, we're, you know, pick a major activity that you can do in Isaac, I would say, just to start out and give it a feel. For me, I found mining. Level 4 missions are good ISK if you find the correct mission, so we did that opportunistically. After that we had research agents, obviously some PI. We did decide to invest some skill time in that. And yeah, that's basically our gameplay income. After that, I did some trading, but not a lot. What I mostly, I think, traded in was Tech 2 ships, where I was looking for a good opportunity. I think I've done some profits in bombers back then, in stealth bombers. And then maybe 1 or 2 trades in command ships. The command ships are really good because you can make 10-20 million in a single trade, and that's really what I was mostly looking for, is a decent margin, so that I would be certain that at a price point that was realistic, I could still come out with 10-20 million ISK in profit. So you don't come across that very often, but once in a while I decide to keep an eye on the market, and I did a couple of those trades, but I definitely did not make billions trading. No, in fact, I've made billions and billions mining, just mining minerals and bringing those to the market. Now, in the meantime, obviously, this is gonna take you a few years, I would say, to really get established and to feel secure with a nice wallet in reserve. During that time, you can obviously branch out into other stuff, and for me and my brother, that was to get into a POS, to have a POS, which we did. Now, a POS is not going to make you a lot of ISK. In fact, it's going to cost you some, because you have to, well, buy the POS, buy the research labs, invest in the POS fuels if you're not making that yourself. But that's more of a long-term investment, because you can research BPOs very quickly there, a lot faster than what we have here. So currently I'm researching in a station, and as you can see, a lot of them are pending, so this is still gonna take 1 month and 13 days before it's finished. Those are almost starting, 21 days and 23 days, but obviously in your own POS, you can just research a lot straight away. And how we approached that was we wanted to have BPOs so that we were at least sustainable, self-sustainable in a small ship. So we have a perfectly research Rifter BPO with some, let me quickly see, rigs, and all the modules for Tech 1 guns, afterburners, and low slots. Basically, if we would ever come to the situation where we would be forced to stay in a POS only, well, we could produce Rifters and some destroyers and all the modules needed for that ourselves. All we would need is the raw materials, some minerals, in order to get that. So that was our philosophy back when we had a POS. In the meantime, I have evolved a little bit towards higher value BPOs. For instance, I have a perfectly researched Vexor BPO, and I'm currently working, let me see here, on an Algos, a Talos BPO, a Catalyst BPO, and an Itron Mark V BPO. And depending on how much ISK I have, I'm looking to go into a bigger BPO, maybe a battleship, maybe even a capital ship, or something like that. Those are long-term investments, but they can pay off. I definitely made some money out of the Talos BPO already, just producing them with a decent margin. So after that, after you've established your main gameplay way of making ISK, maybe a bit of passive income with PI and research agents, after that it's time to look for a larger horizon, and BPOs are definitely one way to do that. It takes a lot of time to research them, but if you can increase your margin and you can find the correct BPOs that are highly demanded by the market, you can definitely make some good ISK that way as well. And then finally, I would say, once you really have enough ISK, for me 10 billion, that's really great. I feel very comfortable with that. I could replace any ship that I would lose at any time. I also have an Obelisk, I have an Orkia, and I could make a carrier basically anytime that I really wanted to, but I've never done that because I never really feel comfortable flying one of those ships a lot and risk losing it. But with 10 billion, I could replace my entire fleet just in one go if I needed to. And so once you get to that point where you feel comfortable with your balance in your wallet, and then with flying anything you own, at that point you can, I think, start looking into trading, which is what I did for the first time this year. where I bought 8 plex back in Dodixie. Now that's going to be a large, yeah, 221 items, but what's it called here? Is it under plex or is it under 30-day? There you go, 30-day pilot licenses. I have 8 of them. And this is really my first time where I said I have so much ISK that I should really invest it in something where I can expect a nice return. And so I bought these plex at an average price of around 500 million, and I'm expecting to be able to sell them for 600 million. And if that works out, then next year, you know, I might have even more ISK to invest in something like that. And yeah, that's basically, you know, the history of how I've been making my ISK. At the moment, of course, I did switch. I'm no longer mining as much. I am doing some ice mining here in Ibale just to make post fuels, because I do expect at some point this is going to become a bottleneck. That is, if CCP ever comes out with a modular POSes, the demand of that is going to explode, and I want to be ready with that. You know, I already have, well, a little bit, you know, 172 million ISK in fuel blocks. That's not a lot, but can you imagine if that would all of a sudden double in price? That would be really awesome, and so I'm slowly preparing for that as well. But I have moved on to doing mostly exploration now in the Ishtar right here after Odyssey. The reason for that is because exploration has been made a lot easier, a lot more accessible, especially the probing part. It's just so much faster now. Maybe I'll quickly end up with a quick demonstration of that. Not that I think we'll find anything too good here in Ibale, but that was really the big problem. You know, my brother had the patience for it before Odyssey to probe, scan, and then do sites. I did not, because it took so much time. But I have to say, you know, just a quick warning, making money with exploration, you know, potentially you have really big payouts, but it has an additional problem which, for instance, mining does not have, and that is to sell all that stuff, because as you can see, I still have 272 million, 3 million ISK in sell orders in Dodixie and here in Ibale. Just trying to get rid of all of that faction stuff to turn that into liquid ISK, and it's actually not that easy because the demand of that is not as high as the mineral market. Obviously you can't sell to buy orders because those are ridiculously low, but yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. You know, I am making a lot of money in theory, but I can't just switch all of that into ISK at will, which I could when I was mining. And obviously when you're missioning, you know, you make liquid ISK from the bounties, so that's a disadvantage of this. The potential payout is larger, but if you don't have reserves in your wallet, I would say this could be a problem. You know, you could find some really good faction stuff, but be forced to sell it for a much lower price if you really need the ISK, and that's not something that you actually want to do. You want to be able to be patient with this. So yeah, and this is what I'm mostly doing now. You know, I'm exploring and then trying to sell the faction stuff that I find at good prices. That takes a little bit more patience, but the main reason why I switched now is because of how easy the scanning is. As you can see, I don't have to individually move the probes. It's just a Serpentis hideout. But let me quickly show you. Back in the day, you know, in order to change the radius, for instance, you had to shift click everything, so that went wrong once in a while. You know, you would, oh damn, and then I have to put that back out, and then that's wrong again. So that was something that happened a lot. And you had to move all of these probes individually, so you really had to go like that, you know, just start closing the probes in like that, and then you had to diminish the radius, and yeah, you really had to move them all around close to the signature, and then check for that. But then you had to go individually on every single probe, bring that one down a little bit, all of that. That was a lot more work, and it's really the reason why I've waited until Odyssey, where everything works with just a single click and a single drag. So that just improved it a lot, and we've won a lot of time that way, and now it's definitely worth it and not such a big hassle. And that is why I've moved to exploration at the moment. Obviously, there's a lot more you can do. Find an alliance, go rat in 0-0, do wormholes, actively trade in stations. There's a ton of options, but I found it very relaxing and very comfortable, that I had a very constant flow of ISK back when I started with mining. I knew if I would play EVE Online for 2 hours, I had this much ISK made. All I had to do was bring it to the market, and it would be sold the next day. And that was really something that attracted me in mining, and the fact that it's decently passive, and you can do that while watching a movie, reading more about the game, and stuff like that. Once you're established, maybe try looking for some passive income, especially PI, and maybe some research agents. And then after that, try to branch out, I would say. Exploration, you can get big hits, but it can be hard to convert that into liquid ISK. Trading, you can have good trades, but that's a bit more risky. If you find something else that you really enjoy, you can of course go do that. But that's a quick history on my ISK making and how I got to 10 billion in the wallet at the moment. I'm gonna see how my Plex trade turns out, and then for next year we'll see how we do it after the winter expansion. But EVE Online, it's full of opportunities, depending on what playstyle you prefer. You can make a lot of ISK, and this is just how I started out. I hope this can help maybe some new players. For now, I'll see you all next time.